we were down to the wire. We knew we needed to play, and coach dialed up the double move. And once I'm coming off the ball, I kind of see that it's there, and I got the DB to flip his hips. And once I look back, it's exactly what you said. It felt like the ball was in the air forever, like it just couldn't come down, and I just had to find it and make the play.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm tired of being disrespected. So there was no question I was gonna play this year.
We are now the Las Vegas Raiders.
Welcome in, football fans. I'm your host, Cassie Soto, here for Vegas Nation Blitz. The Raiders are now 7-5 after a thrilling last-second victory over the still winless New York Jets. The Raiders coming away with a 31-28 win on Sunday. Let's go ahead and talk about this game with Las Vegas Review-Journal Raiders beat writer Vinny Bonsignor. Vinny, just to sort of refresh everybody's minds, can you please take us through the final play of this game?
Well, obviously the Raiders needed a miracle. There's no question about it. They're at the 46-yard line of the Jets. They've got probably one shot left to make something happen. And, as Derek Carr got up to the line of scrimmage to size up the situation, he recognized what the Jets were getting ready to do, which was basically an all-out blitz. Leave the cornerbacks on an island in a one-on-one situation with their, the receivers that they covered. And I give Derek a lot of credit for recognizing it, then having, the kind of calmness in a stressful situation to get the message out to his offensive line, to running back Jalen Richard, who is right next to him on who to block. Darren Waller changed his assignment from potentially going out in the pass pattern to now becoming a blocker. It all had to happen, seamlessly right there at the line of scrimmage. And then if you watch that play, as much criticism as Greg Williams has gotten, the defensive coordinator for the Giants, and he got fired over it, and rightfully so, but they almost get or do exactly what they wanted to do. They were this close to sacking Derek Carr, but he makes a really tremendous move to move up in the pocket to escape some pressure and then jump passes a ball to Henry Ruggs, who did what he was supposed to do on the double move to get Lamar Jackson to bite, then turned on the burners and, away he goes. But everything had to happen correctly right there. It wasn't a gimme play. It wasn't an easy play by any stretch of the imagination. Everything had to go right.
Well, you mentioned Derek Carr there, Vinny, and I think we have to talk about this stat. Derek Carr has now set the NFL record for the most fourth quarter comebacks in league history through a player's first 7 seasons with 20. 20 times Derek Carr has brought his team back to win. What does that say about his leadership and just ability to gather his team when he needs to?
Well, if you were to talk to Derek Carr, it's great that he has that record, and it's great that he's shown that he can perform under those circumstances. But ideally, you don't want to be in a situation where you have to come back so many times in the fourth quarter. That speaks to some other issues that need to get cleaned up with the Raiders, specifically when you're talking about that Jets game. It should have never come down to that, and that's just the bottom line. But it did, and they had the wherewithal, and Derek Carr has the experience in those situations to still pull out a win. But preferably, you want to be cruising in that fourth quarter. You don't want to always, be in that many situations where you have the record for fourth quarter comebacks. That's not a place that you really want to be in all the time.
Well, here's a record, Vinny, that the Raiders might want to highlight here. How about tight end Darren Waller becoming just the 4th tight end in league history to mark 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in a single game? Darren Waller had himself a day.
Yeah, no question. And, as we point to what Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, did at the very end of the game, you also have to question what he did throughout the game and how he decided to defend Darren Waller. At some point you have to double team him or make life a little bit more difficult in some different types of coverages. But from what I could tell anyway, there were a lot of single coverages that, were just advantageous for the Raiders and for Darren Waller and for Derek Carr. And they obviously recognized that 13 times. And there were about 3 or 4 others that, where they targeted him. The pass was incomplete, but it showed that Derek Carr understood where to take the ball the defense the Jets were playing against Darren Waller, and then also obviously Darren Waller's capabilities and ability to be able to make teams pay. He is really growing into one of the premier tight ends in the NFL, and Sunday was an example of what he could do, not just as a deep routes, but just get on the ball and let his athletic ability take over, and he's going to get you yards. So really impressive what he's been able to do, and just how the Raiders understood, hey, this is where we got to go with the ball, and that's what they did.
Vinny, thank you so much.
All right, Cassie, have a good one.
In other news, the Dallas Cowboys placed All-Pro offensive lineman Zach Martin on the injured reserve list Monday. Martin suffered a calf strain on Thanksgiving against Washington. Police arrested a man who allegedly broke into a mansion owned by Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady in the Boston suburbs. Let's go ahead and take a look at social media with Las Vegas Review-Journal sports journalist Leandre Fox. Leandre, I'm sure all of Raider Nation was tuned into this crazy game, but some very special family members of the Raiders were watching as well.
So if anybody's watched Vegas Nation Game Day, I don't think it's any surprise that we like dogs and we like babies. The Fantastic Photo Contest is always dogs and babies. It's not really anything else. So Max Crosby posted his dogs, of course, all three of them pretty big dogs. He said they were war ready. I believe them. That is a very scary defensive line right there. They might be cuddly on the inside, but on the outside, they look a real vicious. But in some lighter news, Derek Carr's wife posted that their daughter Brooklyn watched her first game. And Cassie, here's a stat for you. The Raiders are undefeated when Brooklyn is watching the game. That's something to look out for going forward.
There you go. That's a good one. They'll need it now with playoffs coming up here, Dre. Well, let's go ahead and move on here. Some people were a little confused by the Jets' coverage on the last play of the game. Did anybody on social media try to clear things up for us?
They're embracing the tank, obviously. They want to tank for Trevor Lawrence. They want a quarterback for the future. They have Sam Darnold. They're probably going to move on from him. They're probably going to move on from Adam Gase and the rest of the coaching staff. They've already fired Greg Williams. So they're embracing the tank, and that was the coverage that we saw at the end of the game there. Obviously, the Jets are all professionals. They're probably not tanking on purpose, but from the outside looking in, it's a big all tank on the field, and tank coverage is not in Madden, Cassie.
Final one for you, Dre. A very famous John Gruden lookalike had a special message for Derek Carr. Before we talk about it, let's go ahead and hear it first.
Hey, Carr, you know all that praying you do? Keep doing it.
That there is Frank Caliendo. He's a John Gruden impersonator. He does a whole bunch of stuff out here in Las Vegas on the Strip, but he, in my eyes, is most famous for his John Gruden impersonation that we saw on Hard Knocks. He is a comedian with it. He's perfect at it. I honestly can't tell the two apart sometimes.
His knock on wood if you're with me videos are so good, Dre.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thanks, Cass.
We are going to take a quick break, but we will be right back. Which quarterback started the most postseason games for the Raiders? Was it A, Rich Gannon, B, Daryl LaMonica, C, Jim Plunkett, or D, Ken Stabler?
Stay on the winning page with fan fave Las Vegas Review-Journal to receive Vegas Nation content, plus breaking news, local entertainment, and lifestyle coverage. For only 99 cents a week, you'll get home delivery plus unlimited access to LVRJ.com. However you like it, whenever you like it. Award-winning content, all at your fingertips. Subscribe today at mylvrj.com/superfan.
Our Vegas Nation podcast keep you up to date with all things Raiders. Get your week going with First and 10 on Mondays featuring Sam Gordon and Vinny Bonsignore.
Who do you count on to make a big play when you need one?
Wednesdays, Heidi Bang brings you in-depth interviews with Raiders players and personalities.
You know it's a great challenge.
On Fridays, get your dose of Raiders talk and musings from Ed Graney and Adam Hill with unsportsmanlike conduct.
Should there be any discipline? No. People are going to get it, and that's fine.
Vegas Nation, fast takes, smart coverage.
Honestly, my dad was not going to be happy. I came into this game knowing that, his birthday is tomorrow, so of course, he's watching, and I had to make some plays, so I can make him proud. And the way the game was going, the bad plays that I had, I knew he wouldn't be happy with the way the game was going, and I wasn't even happy with it. So I knew at some point in the game I had to come back and make a play to make up for it, and just happens that Coach called my number at the end of the game.
Welcome back to Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your host, Cassie Soto, here with Las Vegas Review-Journal sports columnist Ed Graney. Ed, we just heard it off the top there. Raiders rookie receiver Henry Ruggs III saying that he knew his dad was not going to be happy with how he had been playing, so he had to come up with a big play. Do you think a game-winning touchdown, was good enough as good as a birthday gift as it can get?
It depends on if dad gets the game ball and not the daughter, because Henry Ruggs also said that it's going to be between the dad and the daughter for the game ball. No, that was a huge present for dad. And Henry Ruggs talked about it. He probably should have caught the ball in the first quarter from Carr, ends up being a pick. We know he fumbled, which allowed the Jets then to take the lead 28-24 in that game. So to be the one to catch that touchdown from Derek Carr, I think was a huge moment, not only in Henry Ruggs' young career as a rookie, kind of obviously the biggest catch he's had for the Raiders, but also to give dad a nice present on his birthday, for sure.
Yeah, you love to see that. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the defensive side of the ball here, Ed. How about Clelin Ferrell coming back? His first game, he had dealt with the coronavirus. He beat that, battled that. 2 sacks, a couple tackles for loss, some strip sacks included in that. What did you think of his performance?
Absolutely. I mean, look, Clelin Ferrell, what has John Gruden talked about for seasons and seasons? The defense has to create more turnovers. This is what he did with the strip sacks, getting 2 of them, turning the ball over to the Raiders. It was a huge game for him to come off the COVID list and play like that, and they're going to need more of that from him. To this point, it's kind of the last 2 seasons only been Max Crosby that you can count on really getting those sacks and getting to the quarterback. So now if Clelin Ferrell can add that to his game along with what he does against the run, that's a huge boost for the Raiders defense. That defensive line has to play better week to week, and I think that's a really good start for him coming back and doing something like those 2 strip sacks.
Yeah, and I know it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but that the Raiders did get a win. Doesn't matter how they got it. But do you think that this sort of play style, we know this game was not perfect, that they would get this win versus a team that has some wins under their belt this season?
I'm not so sure, Cassie. Look, when they won 3 straight games against the Browns, Chargers, and Broncos, they ran for almost 200 yards a game. They twice went over 200. The last 3 games have been losses, obviously, to the Chiefs, to the Falcons, and then the win against the Jets. They didn't hit 100 yards any of those games. They only averaged, I think, in the 60s. They've got to run the ball to win, which means Josh Jacobs needs to get healthy. That ankle needs to get healthy. They need him back, and they've got to control the clock, run the ball, and keep their defense off the field. I don't think that has changed. I think 0-11 helped a lot the other day. I think Greg Williams, who was fired on Monday, helped a lot with the zero cover on the defense and not any help over the top. That helped the Raiders a lot. But look, you don't argue with road wins in the NFL. You don't argue with any wins. You certainly don't apologize for them.
Yeah, you mentioned Josh Jacobs. We know he sat out this game. I think he was live tweeting during the game too, how nervous he was watching this from the sidelines. How important is it to get guys like that healthy? Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Abram, Damon Arnett going out with a second concussion. You need these guys to make a run here, do you not?
You really need Josh Jacobs. If it told you anything the other day, I think Devontae Booker led them in rushing with 50 yards. Everyone says, Carr is the MVP of the offense. That's probably true. A close 1A would be Josh Jacobs if you saw that team the other day. They just can't run the ball. So they've got to do a better job running the ball. Jonathan Abram come back. You love his aggressiveness. You want the good Jonathan Abram. You don't want the guy taking the bad angles and getting the penalties, Jonathan Abram. But yes, you do need him back. And Damon Arnett, 2 weeks in a row now where he's helmet-to-helmet contact on concussion. Don't know if he'll play this week. I'll say this, though. It's not the Chiefs talent-wise. So every time you take a starter away, you really hurt your depth and you really hurt the overall product. So, yes, they need Trent Brown back on the offensive line. They need Jonathan Abram back. They need Josh Jacobs back, Damon Arnett. They need all these guys back because when you're not the most talented team, you can't have starters continuing to fall by the wayside.
All right, well, we will see who will get healthy in time for this Colts home game, Ed. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cassie.
Before we head to break, let's hear from Napoleon McCallum, a Naval Academy graduate and former Raiders running back, as he talks to us about the 121st Army-Navy game set to take place this Saturday.
The Army-Navy game, I mean, they're the best of the best. These are the guys that have character, who are going out on the battlefield that we get to see fight, and it will be a battle. And later on, they're going to shake hands, and then they're going to work together to protect our country. It's really about the camaraderie, the friends that we make at the Naval Academy. And, even last year I went to the game, and even when I was walking around through the stadium, a lot of Army people, said hi to me and everything and kidded me, about never getting to win against me. But it's just, it's really about camaraderie and the brotherhood that we have.
The answer is D, Ken Stabler. The Snake went 7-4 in the playoffs and led the Raiders to their first NFL title in Super Bowl 11.
Welcome back to the Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your Vegas Nation podcast host here, Heidi Fang, and I've got the AFC playoff picture here for you. We're going to break it down and talk about what it looks like right now for some of these teams as we start to look ahead to Week 14. First of all, in Week 13, the only team to lock up a playoff spot were the Kansas City Chiefs. That means right now the Raiders are definitely going to be in that wild card picture with a lot of other teams. So let's start breaking it down. If you look at the AFC South right now, there are a pair of teams that are still vying for the upper hand, the Titans and the Colts. In the AFC North, you would think the Steelers would have locked up a playoff spot, but they still have those pesky Browns to contend with. Those bad news Browns still stand at 9-3 and could make a move on that spot. In the mix still also, in the AFC East, you have 3 teams that could possibly win it out. The Bills, the Dolphins, and even the 6-6 Patriots. However, there are a lot of things that would need to happen for those Patriots to grab that spot. The most important contests to watch in Week 14 are going to be ones that involve 2 AFC West teams. The Chiefs this week will be taking on the Dolphins and could make the Dolphins' path a lot harder if they take a win in Miami. The other AFC West team with a lot on the line and taking on an AFC South team with a lot on the line are the Raiders and the Colts. That one is going to be a very pivotal contest as we look at the Week 14 matchups. Lastly, we'll take a look here at the Titans and the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars are a 1-11 team, but that doesn't mean that they can't play the role of spoiler. If the season ended now, the Colts and the Dolphins would lock up the last 2 spots in the AFC playoff picture. And that's why all of those games that I mentioned are going to be very crucial down the stretch, especially for those bubble teams. Those teams again being the Patriots, the Ravens, and the Raiders. And that'll do it for this week's AFC playoff roundup, but we'll come back next week to get you all caught up again after the games happen in Week 14. But right now, everybody, make sure to stay tuned as we take a look back on the career of a man who played 4 decades in the NFL, including games into his 40s, and holds multiple records across the NFL, and that would be former Raider George Blanda. George Blanda was one of few football players who played into their 40s. He played the most seasons of any single player in the NFL with 26. Over the course of 4 decades in the NFL, Blanda was also the oldest player to ever play the game at 48 years old. From 1967 to 1978, Blanda was a Raider. At the time he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1981, Blanda was at the top of the list for career point leaders in the NFL with 2,002 points. He still remains at number 7 all time. Speaking of the number 7, Blanda once threw for that many touchdowns in a single game in 1961. Only 7 other quarterbacks have also done that in NFL history. Blanda was both a place kicker and a quarterback. As the quarterback of the Houston Oilers, he scored 36 touchdown passes in 1961, which was the most ever thrown by any NFL or AFL quarterback in a single season. As a Raider, Blanda saw action under center at the age of 43. He came in to replace an injured Darryl LaMonica in a 1970 game against the Steelers and scored 3 touchdowns. Against Cleveland that year, he threw a touchdown pass and also scored on a 53-yard field goal attempt. In the AFC title game against the Baltimore Colts, Blanda again stepped in for LaMonica and scored 2 touchdowns before being intercepted twice. At the time, he was the oldest quarterback to ever play in a championship game. His last game was played in 1975 against the Steelers in an AFC title game. He passed away in 2010 after a battle with cancer. He was 83 years old. Blanda holds on to many NFL records, including most extra points kicked, most extra points attempted, and was also NFL Man of the Year in 1974. That'll do for this moment in history.
Stay on the winning page with Fan Fave Las Vegas Review Journal. to receive Vegas Nation content, plus breaking news, local entertainment, and lifestyle coverage. For only 99 cents a week, you'll get home delivery plus unlimited access to LVRJ.com. However you like it, whenever you like it. Award-winning content, all at your fingertips. Subscribe today at mylvrj.com/superfan.
Our Vegas Nation podcast keep you up to date with all things Raiders. Get your week going with First and 10 on Mondays featuring Sam Gordon and Vinny Bonsignore.
Who you can count on to make a big play when you need one.
Wednesdays, Heidi Fang brings you in-depth interviews with Raiders players and personalities.
You know it's a great challenge.
On Fridays, get your dose of Raiders talk and musings from Ed Graney and Adam Hill with unsportsmanlike conduct.
Should there be any discipline? No. People are going to get it, and that's fine.
Vegas Nation, fast takes, smart coverage.
Thanks so much for sticking with us here on Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your host, Cassie Soto, alongside Raiders writer for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Sam Gordon. Sam, we talked immediately following the game, and I think we should have waited a little bit to be able to wrap our minds around this one. It was a wild game. Now that you've had some time to process it, Sam, can you please take us through the numbers from this one?
Absolutely, Cassie, and definitely glad we get to talk again now that, like you said, I've been able to gather my thoughts a little bit. The Raiders did indeed escape the New York Jets, the clutches of the dangerous New York Jets, and they're at 7-5, and of course positioned to still compete for a wild card berth. But there's a couple stats that really jumped out to me from Sunday's game, and first and foremost, the rushing defense. They allowed 206 rushing yards. As you know, the Jets were able to get whatever they want on the ground. And that's the second most they've allowed in the game this season, 206 yards. And second, to go along with that, Cassie, the Raiders only rushed for 72 yards. That's their second fewest in a game this season. And you go over the course of the last three games, the Raiders in the last three games are 31st in the NFL in run defense. They're allowing 146.3 yards per game, ahead of only the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes along with the New York Jets. And then the Raiders are the 29th in rushing offense during that same span, the last three games, gaining 67 yards per game. That's almost 60 fewer than their season average of 121. So not exactly ideal with the Indianapolis Colts and their seventh-ranked rushing defense. I mean, they're coming to Allegiant Stadium on Sunday. So we'll see if the Raiders can get those elements corrected and get back to running the ball and stopping the run a little better than they did on Sunday and over the course of the last three games.
And you mentioned the 8-4 Colts coming into town, Sam. Can you please give us a quick preview there?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, as we just touched on, the Colts are strong on their defensive line. They are seventh when it comes to stopping the run, but they also have one of the best offensive lines in football too, particularly when it comes to pass blocking. Quarterback Phillip Rivers this season has only been pressured on 14.8% of his dropbacks. That is the fourth fewest in the NFL, up there with the likes of Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger, some of the better pass blocking offensive lines in football. We will have more on the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. But the Raiders, it's going to be a struggle for them to get some pressure the way they were able to against Sam Darnold.
You're right. You mentioned it there. We'll be back on Sunday for Vegas Nation Game Day. Sam joining me via Skype for that. Sam, thank you so much as always. Talk to you on Sunday.
Thanks, Cassie. Appreciate it.
That'll do it for another episode of Vegas Nation Blitz. But as Sam just said, we will be back on Sunday for Vegas Nation Game Day at 9 a.m. on Cox Your View Channel 14, or you can stream us live at vegasnation.com, Vegas Nation Facebook page, and Review Journal's YouTube page. For our entire Vegas Nation crew, I'm Cassie Soto. We'll see you then.